Hello guys, welcome back to Audible Odyssey. So let's step into a world of immersive storytelling where gripping tales of mystery, horror and adventure come to life. Each narration is crafted to pull you into the heart of the story, creating an unforgettable audio experience. From spine-tingling horrors to timeless classics, Audible Odyssey Adventures is your gateway to thrilling journeys beyond imagination. Subscribe now, and let the stories take you to places you've never dreamed of. Audible Odyssey presents. 5 12-year-old children went missing around this time a decade ago. They were only gone from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. before returning home to their worried parents. None of them would talk about what happened to them that night. The police tried to get answers out of them, asking if they had seen anyone out in the forest or if that person had hurt or coerced them in any way, but the children all remained silent. Their faces told the whole story. Though 4 out of the 5 children were scared, quiet but responsive, their eyes darted from the authorities to their parents and to the tree line with a certain frenzy. Every once in a while they'd gather up the courage to take a glance at the 5th boy with nothing short of fear. They almost didn't even seem to recognize him. The 5th boy looked different than the others. He seemed distant. His eyes stared outward, focused in on something 1,000 yards away. In the darkness of the night his mother would turn his head to face hers, yet his eyes remained fixated on whatever lurked in the shadows. His skin was cold and dry, and his hair was disheveled. A blackish liquid lipid had stained his lips and chin. Several large tears ran down his clothes as though he'd been savagely clawed by some animal, yet his skin was strangely left undamaged. All the 5th boy would say was that he was tired and wanted to go home, so his family went back to their house, and after some fruitless talks with the other children the rest headed home as well, where when the sun came up that next autumn day, the birds weren't the only things that chirped to life. That morning gave birth to the loudest song of all. Police sirens echoed down the sparsely populated town for the second time in just as many days. Many of the residents stepped outside to watch the unusual sight of both local and nearby law enforcement speeding down towards the boys' neighborhood. Later that day, the town would find out that the 5th boy had murdered his mother and ran off into the woods. His father had left for work, only to discover that he had left his wallet at home. After a quick U-turn, he made it back to his home. As soon as he entered, he knew something was off. He smelled death in the blind. He ran to the home kitchen to discover his son holding a kitchen knife and his mother lying under him, blood bubbling out of fresh wounds. The boy looked at him and asked Dad what he had done before running out the back door of the kitchen with tears in his eyes. The father didn't chase him. He stayed with his wife until the police arrived. It didn't take long to find the man's son. About 100 yards into the tree line the boy's body lay tangled up in bushes and tree branches. The boy had stabbed himself in his abdomen for an unknown reason. The responding officer said it looked like the boy was trying to get something out of him or make space in his body for something else. Carved into a tree nearby were the words, "I'm so sorry, Dad. It's all over." The sheriff of the town and one of the four remaining boys' father immediately went home to talk to his child. He had a strong feeling that whatever happened the night before was the cause of this whole mess for the longest time, the lifelong. The officer couldn't get anything out of his son, not until he told him what happened to his friend. Like a switch had flipped on. His son began saying that the boy's name was Sam. Ross Jordan Kane and Tyler had been playing in the backyard of Sam's home while his father was away at work. Just behind the backyard lay miles upon miles of forest. Around mid-afternoon, the boys had thoughts about going home for the day. It was then that a young girl adorned in a beautiful white dress stepped out of the woods and wanted to play with me. She said. Her tone was sweet and calm. The boys had never seen her anywhere else before. Sam spoke up first. "Sure, what do you want to do?" he asked, smiling at the pretty young girl. She flashed a pleased smile before spinning around and sprinting off into the woods to try and catch me. She hollered at the others. They were captivated by her. They didn't think twice about running into the woods to catch up to her. At this point, Sam broke down. His father waited until he could speak again to press for more details. The boy stated that they couldn't run for more than 10 minutes before they somehow became lost. Within those apparent few minutes of running, enough time had passed that the sun was already setting. The boys got scared and tried to turn around. No matter where they went, nothing seemed familiar to them. They felt as though the blackening woods were changing in front of their eyes. They wandered through dense forests in the pitch-colored night before stumbling upon a light off in the distance. They walked towards it and discovered an old shack in a clearing. Lights and candles adorned the outside of the building, spelling out a heartless path towards the door and, although frightened, they decided to walk up to the home and knock on the door. Sam explained how it creaked open on its own, exposing in one room where bones of many creatures hung from the ceiling, glistening a glossy white with the flickering of a fireplace. In the corner of the room, a large wooden table rested in the forefront and an old woman sat behind it, staring at the children with a toothless grin. Her blackened eyes somehow focused on each one of them. In the woman's seat, the children felt their feet move on their own, guiding them further inside the home without instruction. "I'm sorry to bother you, miss, but we want to go home and we're lost," Sam said. His voice trembled as the woman's head shifted unnaturally to face him. Her features were wooden and frozen. The only sign of life emanating off of her was her cold but immensely intense eyes. They were the eyes that a child should never have to see, the eyes of a predator. "I can help you with that if you can help me with something," the old lady croaked. "Please have a seat." Her arms stretched the length of double her height as they winged themselves over the table. Large sacks of thick, gristly fat dangled under her forearms and biceps as she gestured to the 5 empty seats around the table. Her arms, though grotesquely misshapen, had the same wooden quality as her face. The fat seemed hard and bony, almost petrified. With age, the children felt the same force that made them enter pushed them towards their seats. They pulled the unusually heavy wooden chairs away from the table and took their spots. The woman's crooked arms folded themselves downward, draping themselves under the table before producing a wooden box latched with an old iron lock. She placed it in front of the boys. "Before I asked for my bargain with, would any of you children like anything?" Her smile didn't falter, nor did it move in the slightest way. When she spoke, her jaw merely dropped down and snapped shut, her thinning hair plumed off her head like a mane, not reacting at all to the odd rapid movement of her head and mouth. The children looked at each other and shook their heads. Each of their eyes begged for someone to take the lead to run away. But no one did. It felt like their legs were useless under their small frames. "Good, then let me begin." Her hidden lips chattered like hardened bone with every word that flew out of her mouth. She used her long spindly fingers to shift the box to face the children with her eyes. Her fingers were full of life and agility. They moved with unnatural expertise and grace. "I have 4 gifts in this chest for you and 1 gift for me." She let her words hang in the air. The young minds of the boys tried to wrap their heads around her sentence. "But there were 5 of us," Ross whispered towards the woman. She twitched her head like a hawk towards him, her eyes like daggers, "and only 4 would be going home." She gave a chuckle and let the children take in what she'd said. The boys sat in silence, letting the noises of the crackling fire from the candles and fireplace take over the room. Each child could very clearly hear their own heartbeat thudding desperately in their chest. Each wanted to run, but none could. With a few taps from her pointed fingertips, the box opened. Hay lined the bottom of the wooden chest and 5 items lay on top. The first was the head of an old doll. Its eyelids flickered to life rapidly before resting in the open position, gazing lifelessly towards the ceiling. The next was a penny, damaged on one side, but it looked common enough. There was a large black button. Nothing seemed special about it, other than the fact that the candlelight flickered across it with unusual. Next to that was a simple piece of candy, some sort of chocolate wrapped in a white cloth, and finally was a brightly colored yellow dandelion freshly picked for each of you. "Take one, no need to spoil the surprise." Her neck craned towards the leader of the boys, Sam, who returned a look of pure hatred towards the woman. Without hesitation, he grabbed the head of the doll, sure that he would be the one cursed with staying. The other boys watched as the doll's eyes rolled back in their sockets. A little girl's giggle echoed in the old woman's den. "Sally always likes to play. She'll do anything to keep her playmate safe and well-fed," a cackle see out of her stiff mouth. Next up was Ross. He took the piece of candy and looked up towards the ancient woman across the table from him. "Enjoy the sight, my dear, I'm sure there will be more in the future." Her eyes shifted towards the next boy. Tyler took the black button. It was the size of a $50 and fitted snugly in the boy's palm. "An eye for an eye, my child." The boy looked down at his new black trinket and gasped as he saw his own reflection. He could feel a gaze resting on him emanating from the button. The next child took the penny. It remained an unremarkable piece of metal. Interesting. The final boy, Jordan, was left with the dandelion. As soon as he picked it up, the old lady's head snapped over to face him, and I had my reward right there. The woman rose up from the table, her body stretching itself lengthwise towards the ceiling. She had an unnaturally lanky body. Her bones were seemingly frail and fragile under the near see-through black fabric draped over her slender frame. "The rest of you may leave. Follow the path right back home." Her hands reached forward and cradled Jordan's face. A tear trickled down his cheek. The remaining children stood up, legs shaking from under them. One by one, they left until it was just their leader, Sam, and the final boy. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," Sam said towards the last boy, but his apology wasn't directed at Jordan. No, it was directed at the three children outside the home. With a quick toss, he threw the doll's head towards the last boy, who caught it in his grip. Immediately, the sounds of an angry child erupted in the den. The old woman's smile remained, but the joy in her eyes left. The hair on the back of her head stood on end in a panic. Sam yelled at Jordan. Jordan quickly stood and ran out the door, joining the rest of the boys in their flee away from the den. They followed the dirt path, hearing the sounds of high-pitched screaming coming from home. Eventually, as that sound subsided, the only sounds they heard were the exasperated tones of their breaths as their energy began to leave them. The children had run for a handful of minutes past their limits, exhausted but unwilling to rest in the darkness of the foreign forest. It was then at their most tired that a flutter came from above them. A black shape quickly darted down from the darkened skies onto the path ahead of them. A large black shape stood between them and their homes with a hunched back and a grim expression. They saw the old lady unravel herself from her cloak, her pale white face being the only contrast to the blackness around them. Her head had seemingly fallen into disrepair. Flaps of skin clung off of her bony face like drapery. Her lips had disappeared in favor of a mouth that stretched from one end of her jaw to the other, splitting her head in half. The children stopped dead in their tracks to stare at this monster. The crooked woman stuttered her way towards them, each movement jagged and harsh. Her knees had bent themselves at 90 degrees to support her deranged angular body. "How dare you!" she screeched. "I only wanted you." She pointed out one of her long fingers towards the last boy in line. Jordan froze, whether it be from fear or some unnatural force. He stopped dead in his tracks. The other children backed away from him in silent terror as the hunchbacked lady in black lurched herself towards him. As soon as he was within the woman's arm reach, she silently leaped off the dirt and engulfed the child into the inkiness as the dirt. Screaming, the boys watched for only a moment as the old lady opened her mouth like a lid from a can. Black ooze began spilling from the woman's gaping hole and into the boy's lungs. The rest of the boys abandoned him there to the sounds of his drowning. They left him alone to deal with whatever creature they'd found that night. The boys eventually ran back into town right where their journey began. This is where they were surprised to see that not just the four of them had made it back, but all five. At some point in their journey, Jordan had caught back up with them. Sam swore that he only heard 4 sets of footsteps in the darkness of that path. He'd never heard of Jordan. Sam's father had enough of the story. He could see it on his son's face that something had happened out there. But he wasn't going to believe a story like that. Him and his force devised a detailed search of the area looking for anything out of the ordinary. They never found a path, a cabin, or a missing girl. 2 months had passed and nothing had happened. They dropped the case. Years later, Sam turned to drinking, at a young age. Tyler moved off into the farmland far away from the forests. Kane went to the city and I stayed there. My name's Ross and I saw everything. So guys, the video has ended now. If you like our stories and want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to Audible Odyssey channel and do all these things, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Enjoy horror and adventure stories like this. So just subscribe to Audible Odyssey. Bye bye.